The world ended in fire and screaming metal. One moment, Kaelin was a silhouette against the bruised Ilosian sky, her slender amethyst skin form bent over the strange, humming geode she'd been studying. The next, the air itself tore apart. It was a scavenger's trap. A crude, magnetic pulse mine left behind by the Gracker, a brutish species that strip mined worlds and salted the earth with their vicious leftovers. It wasn't meant for the gentle, six-fingered Xylosians. It was meant for rival scavengers like him. But Kaelin had triggered it. Rex saw the telltale flicker of red light, a heartbeat before the detonation. There was no time to shout, no time to think. There was only the deep, bone-deep instinct that had made him a good soldier and a terrible civilian. He lunged, not away from blast, but towards it, wrapping his body around Kaelin's just as the world turned white-hot and deafening. The force lifted him like a leaf. He felt a searing, percussive impact across his back and legs, 1,000 white-hot needles digging deep. His last conscious thought was not a pain, but a strange, cold certainty. Ilera would have done the same. Then nothing. Consciousness returned not as a sunrise, but as a slow, dripping leak. It brought with it a pain so vast and intricate it felt like a new ecosystem had been seeded in his nervous system. He was lying on something soft, yielding, that smelled of dried moss and something floral. The air was cool and still. He tried to open his eyes, but only one obeyed. The other was sealed shut under a thick, gelatinous poultice. His body was a map of agony, but the sharp, jagged edges of the shrapnel wounds were muted, wrapped in a deep, throbbing ache. He was alive. That was the first surprise. The second was the light. It wasn't a harsh, artificial glare of a med bay, but a soft, bioluminescent glow emanating from fungi growing in delicate shells on the curved, wooden walls of the chamber. He was in a Xylosian dwelling. A soft, chittering sound made him turn his head, a movement that sent fire lancing down his neck. Surrounding his low bed were Kaelin's family. He knew them by sight from a distance. Her father, Orin, tall and stern, with a cranial frill of iridescent blue that now seemed dull with worry. Her mother, Lyanna, whose large, liquid black eyes were wide with an emotion he couldn't place. And Kaelin herself, perched on a stool, one of her arms in a sling made of woven vine, but otherwise unharmed. Her gaze, fixed on him, was a mixture of relief and something else, awe? But they were not alone. The small, circular room was filled with Xylosians, dozens of them, their slender forms packed tightly together, their quiet, clicking language a soft murmur. They were all looking at him, not with the suspicion or fear he was used to, the human, the outsider, the scarred veteran who kept the edge of their settlement, but with profound, unnerving stillness. Orin stepped forward. He held a shallow, wooden bowl filled with water. With a reverence that made Rex's skin prickle, Orin dipped a soft moss cloth into the water and gently dabbed at Rex's forehead, cleaning away the grime and dried blood. It was an act of intimate care, the kind reserved for family. Lyanna followed, placing a small, carved stone token on the bedside. It was etched with the spiral symbol of their clan, a gift of belonging. Then, one by one, the other Xylosians approached. An elder with a face like weathered bark laid a single, luminous flower beside the token. A young warrior placed a perfectly forged arrowhead, its tip gleaming. A mother with a child, clinging to her leg, left a small, woven bracelet. They didn't speak to him, only bowed their heads slightly, their large eyes holding a depth of gratitude that transcended language. Rex was surrounded not by a crowd, but by a community he had, in his own broken way, joined. His voice was a ragged croak. Kaelin, is she? Kaelin understood. She moved to his side, her good hand resting lightly on his arm. I am well, Rex of the Scarred Heart, because of you. The story, as she explained in her halting, carefully learned Galactic standard, had spread. The Gracker trap was a known terror. No one caught in its blast had ever survived. When the explosion echoed through the valley, they had come expecting to find two bodies. Instead, they found Rex, a human shield of flesh and bone, curled around Kaelin, his back a shredded ruin of metal and blood. They had carried him here, to their most skilled healers, who had worked for a day and a night to carefully extract the shrapnel and pack the wounds with their bioreactive poultices. You took the shattering into yourself, Orin said, his voice a low, resonant rumble. You have paid a blood debt for my daughter's life. Our blood is now your blood, our shelter your shelter. The concept was alien, overwhelming. Rex had acted on instinct, a debt he'd failed to protect his own unit on Meridian V. This felt less like payment and more like a long-overdue penance. Days blurred into a hazy routine of sleep, healing, and quiet observation. The Xylosians brought him food, sweet, pulpy fruits, and nutritious, nutty paste. They changed his bandages with gentle, efficient hands. Children would peek into the doorway, their black eyes curious, before scurrying away with soft clicks of laughter. One afternoon, as the light from the doorway began to fade, Kaelin sat with him. "You dream of the fire woman," she stated softly. It wasn't a question. Rex stiffened. He cried out in his sleep. "Her name was Alara. She was your heartmate." "Yes." "You could not shield her from your world's fire." Kaelin's perception was unnerving. The Xylosians communicated as much with empathic intuition as with words. Rex looked away, toward the glowing fungi. "No, I couldn't." Kaelin was silent for a long time. "You have now shielded one of ours. The balance of the universe is strange, Rex of the scarred heart. Perhaps it does not forget a debt, even when we think it has." The words settled deep inside him, a balm on an old wound he thought would never heal. When he was finally strong enough to stand, leaning heavily on a carved staff Orin had made for him, they led him outside. The entire clan was gathered in the central clearing of their village, a community of elegant, living structures grown from the massive, twisting trees. They fell silent as he emerged. Orin stood before the clan, holding the bowl that had been used to clean Rex's wounds. But now it was filled not with water, but with a dark, earthy pigment. Liana stood beside him, holding a single, sharp thorn. "The marks of the body tell the story of the spirit," Orin intoned, his voice carrying through clearing. "A story of protection is the highest story of all." Liana dipped the thorn into the pigment. She approached Rex. With a touch as light as a butterfly's wing, she pressed the thorn into the skin of his forearm, just above the wrist. It was a quick, sharp prick. Then she began to draw. A line, then another crossing it, forming a pattern that mirrored the clan spiral symbol, but incorporated jagged lines like shrapnel, transforming into a shield. It was a tattoo, a permanent record. One by one, the elders of the clan came forward. Each one added a mark, a star for his journey from the sky, a wave for the pain he had endured, a leaf for the new life granted to Kaelin. The process was slow, ritualistic, and deeply painful. Rex stood firm, his jaw clenched, accepting each prick of the thorn. This was not like the automated tattoo gun that had inked his military designation. This was alive. This meant something. When it was over, his forearm was a tapestry of black ink, a story etched into his skin. It was their history, and now it was his. He was no longer Rex, the broken human soldier hiding on a frontier world. He was no longer an outsider. He looked around at the faces of the clan, at Orin's stern pride, Liana's gentle smile, at the children who no longer peeked but stared openly with acceptance, and finally at Kaelin, who looked at him as if he were a legend walked out of Fireside Tale.